welcome to the Royal Geek Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Rollison, also known as T-Roll. And tonight, I'm joined by my very good friends. First of all, we have Justin Sandoval, a.k.a. Sandy. And we also have Anthony Amato, who we like to call Shamato. Boys, how we doing tonight? We're here to review the final episode of Skeleton Crew. How you guys feeling?
You know, man, feeling good, man. We're digital today, so we're not in the same room, which is different, of course. But yeah, I'm excited to talk to the season finale.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've had a really good run so far, and I'm glad to see like the talk about the culmination of everything that's been happening for the 8 weeks.
Yeah, we are digital. We're not in the same room. I'm gonna go ahead and just choose to blame that on Justin, just because I feel like it.
I'll allow it.
Yeah, you better.
So if you hear anybody glitch out or delay or whatever, it's because of my fault and terrible Wi-Fi, probably.
Yeah, actually, that's probably true. But if you do hear us glitch out or lag or delay, no worries. Just be patient. We'll be back. We want to thank you for tuning in, all of our faithful followers, our faithful fans, and our friends, the wonderful people of the Royal Geek Podcast. We want to really just say thank you guys. It's been a good season reviewing this show, a pleasant surprise. And we want to remind you to please subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen. And if you want to know the best way you can help us out, here's what you do. On this episode, hit that share button. Share this podcast with a friend of yours who likes Star Wars content. Someone that you know who is watching Skeleton Crew. That's the best way to help us out, okay? Yeah, boys, it's the last episode. It's called The Real Good Guys. And I think it's probably okay to just do the spoiler warning and let's just jump in, okay?
Yeah, well, I'll jump in. Let's do it.
So what are your we oftentimes, when it comes to a finale on some of these shows, which normally it's in the Marvel or Star Wars world, right? We tend to be pretty critical of the finales, whether they're good or bad. You know, if we would describe them as a decent finale or a strong finale or a weak finale. So I'd love to know, how do you guys view this finale? Would you guys mostly enjoy it? Were you let down in some ways? Like, give us like your general thoughts before we dive deep.
I think for me, general thoughts is it was a solid finale, but there was definitely moments of disappointment. I think the supervisor reveal was very, very disappointing, and but the rest of the episode had great character arc conclusions with certain characters, and there was some good there. There was a lot of good there. It was just one instance that I was really just not a fan of.
Yeah, I feel like it was a solid finish to the show. I feel like there were one or two spots that were a little lackluster. There were one or two characters I wish got a little more of their like spotlight, I guess you could say. And I do think like part of the reason why we're so critical of these streaming show finales is lots of times they only do one or two seasons. And so like this could be the series finale. And then on top of that, you have these situations where you're talking about with shows going 2 or 3 years in between seasons. So like you're really like stuck with this as your ending for like years instead of it being like the yearly turnaround like on traditional syndicated TV.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I think also another thing that makes it one of the reasons I'm critical of them is I'm just so desperate, and I feel like listeners are as well, viewers. We're so desperate for these shows to integrate into a larger universe. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
And so that's one thing I was disappointed in. If we're going to mention disappointments, like the way it ended, I was like, hold on. I feel like we didn't get many answers, about, I mean, we got one indication from the supervisor that he says all Jedi are traitors. So, that can things. But I felt like we were a little let down with like the repercussions, like the way it ended, the way it did.
Yeah.
At the very end, like I think it's just like I don't know. It's just a little disappointing. But
Which I find it interesting because they interviewed like Filoni like a while ago, and Dave Filoni was like, "Don't worry, like we're done with Order 66, anything." But the message that the supervisor got with the Jedi's being traitors was all associated with Order 66, like as far as like uh, the turning the troopers on the Jedi and everybody else.
Well, I'm okay with that. I think in that version, Filoni was kind of getting at like this idea that every time you add a Jedi that survived or someone who survived Order 66, you're kind of like diluting the purpose of it, because like the part of the anguish of Order 66 is that there were so few left afterwards.
Yeah,
It was such devastation. But every time you're like, oh yeah, this guy was left, this guy got out, that guy got out. Everyone becomes like makes it exponentially less important. So I'm okay with them like saying, oh yeah, this happened. Now if they had been like, oh yeah, like, and all Jedi are traitors and we have Jedi slaves now or something like that, that would have been like okay, like we're getting a little weird here, know.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a good point. So, anyways, all that to say, for me, I mostly enjoyed the finale. I enjoyed. It's a kid show, and in a kid show, the kids are always right. You know what I'm saying? Instead of the parents.
Yeah.
And there were some of those factors that were happening, which didn't totally bother me. Like when Wendell joins Wim and on the hover bikes and they're fleeing, like I kind of like that when he said, "Son, you're talking to a level 7 systems coordinator."
That was nice. That was good.
That was a super cool scene. I love that.
Yeah. That was awesome.
I do wish we had a moment where Wim could have been like, actually had a conversation for a second with his father. And like his dad had been able to like have that realization, like, oh, this stuff is really happening. I need to stop thinking like this and change my mind. Instead of it was just because he went straight from I need to chase down my son to stop him to I'm all gung ho. And there wasn't, I didn't really see that like mental shift in him. So I would have preferred to see a moment where he was like, hey,
nah, man, Wim just said, trust us. Just trust me, Dad. I got us. I'm a kid. I've traveled the galaxy.
I've seen things. There was multiple conversations that were had where it was like, I've seen some things out there in the galaxy. Like they're little kids and they're like, oh, I've seen a thing or two, that kind of thing. Like, I'm like, okay. I mean, I guess technically you have compared to where your life is or was.
Yeah. Like when Fern gives the big speech to her mom, the galaxy is dangerous, but in every planet, there's good people too. And I'm like, that's adorable. There's also a ton more bad people, especially in this universe.
Yeah. I think her exact phrasing was like, in all the bad we saw, there were some good people. Like, I think it was
okay, because you met like one nice stripper, and then you met like an owl lady.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, got it.
Yeah.
Well, and the guy they met in the spa.
Oh, no, that's true.
Like
they need to call him.
He was a good dude too. They were good people, but I do think there is like we had to kind of scale it in our minds because you got to remember how sheltered everyone is on Atatin. So like any sort of experience, whether it be adult or child out in the real galaxy, is like exponentially more than anything that like an adult on Atatin would have.
That's a great
so
point,
you kind of have to like weigh it, I think, a little bit. Not saying that you should just be like, well, the kid's right, but like, I do think there is like a little added extra weight because of the lack of experience on the adult side.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. So all to say, and we'll get into a little bit more of a chronological feel here in a second. But all that to say, I was mostly positive on the finale. Disappointed in the ending. Disappointed with. We'll get to Jod at some point. Disappointed with some Jod stuff, but for the most part, it was kind of enjoyable. Like seeing Neel go find that big cannon, like my man Neel coming through in the clutch.
Yeah, that was a super cool callback.
But also, he didn't like. I love that he didn't completely save the day. He gets like 2 shots off, and then he's running for his life again. Like I like that there's an element of realism to that.
Yeah,
he was scared.
Which is something that they've done a good job They've done a
That's
good
true.
job of like giving them like elements of success, but never like full success in a lot of these
Mhm.
moments.
Yep.
So that's been really cool. Like just seeing them just like which makes it seem like more realistic and more likely that this is how it would go down.
Yeah.
Instead of them just like mowing down at all these pirates, it's like he gets off a
Yeah.
couple shots, sure, but it's
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
like he's not this epic person. And once again, Neil needs to stop taking baths.
Oh, I
Nothing good happens when
know.
he takes a bath.
What was that? Oh my gosh.
Well, let's get into it, man. Let's get into it. So, so it picks up in credit to Filoni and whoever directed this one. He was producing it. But it picks up right. You hear the lightsaber. Screen's still dark. You hear the lightsaber, and the parents are thankful, and Jod is still pretending to be the emissary. But he's being, he's in character, and
Oh
he
yeah.
is,
Full charisma going.
yeah, full charisma. He's being whimsical, if you will.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he instantly is like contain them to their quarters, but Fern is being a little snarky, and it was interesting how he like I don't know why he made Fern and his mom, or sorry, Fern and her mom come with him. Do you guys think about that at all?
I mean, I think the intentions were not to bring the mom, but obviously she like stepped in. But I think he was going to bring Fern with him as potentially a hostage situation. If he got to the supervisor and stuff went down, he could
Yeah,
fall back on "I'll hurt the child," that kind of thing.
yeah, I guess so.
That's my kind of mindset in that.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah, I think
That's
part
fair.
of it was also he knew that like the mom, if he left the mom with Fern, then he knew that Fern wasn't going to listen. Like there was no way, like no matter how many droids they had there, she wasn't going to do anything. And then like I feel like he also kind
Yeah,
of thought he knew what standing the mom had. So like
that's right.
in a way she was
She's the only threat. She's really the only threat.
she's also an
Yeah.
important piece to bring to the supervisor.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good word. Fern's mom is really.
/ she could be the person like if she isn't allowed to go with her child. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's technically like the highest ranking human.
Yeah.
No, she absolutely is the highest ranking human.
Yes.
Yeah. So, kind of, what did you think of Jod's strategy, Justin?
I mean, bringing him up to the supervisor, they get in there. I mean, I think it made sense, like to use them as hostage bait. I mean, I mean, that's got to be the only thing. And then then that's it, man.
Yeah, I mean, it was really interesting seeing his strategy on just from the very beginning. And so it's interesting, Wim and KB and our boy Neel, they're sent home, but yeah, he's got Fern as I guess as you
I
said,
do think
as
it's I
a
do think it's crazy that he used the droids, the security droids as like they automatically listened to him. He automatically had full authority and full everything over the droids, and they were just there watching the kids, spying on them, like sitting them like awkwardly staring at them during
right.
their dinner, lunch, and everything. But like this emissary, quote unquote, comes down and automatically assumes full power over the security droids. Like, I don't know. I find a flaw in that, especially if you're a planet that requires to get through a barrier to get to the planet. Like, I think there's a
Yeah.
massive flaw there.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit last week too, and I guess it really comes down to the fact that he was on one of the official ships, so in their mind, he's obviously legit. But yes, it felt like they needed a two-step verification or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right. They desperately needed a two-step verification.
Yeah, they needed something, man. So I don't know. It was interesting. So Fern, he's going up to the tower, and I think, we're about to get the reveal of the supervisor, which is exciting. But also, Amato, you just mentioned this a minute ago, but it is amazing. Like Wim, he's on his walkie-talkie, and I do love this kid element of this, right? He's on the walkie-talkie. He's calling Neel. But Neel, man, our boy Neel, once again in the bath.
In the
If there is
bath,
one
man.
thing, if there is one thing that Neel has been missing through this whole journey, aside from his family, it's the baths. And you know what I think, Justin? I think that he was trying to get a good night's sleep, but you know what he should have done? He should have taken one of Magic Mind's sleep shots, man.
Yeah, dude, Magic Mind has come in so clutch, man. I a year ago, honestly, like I started a new job, new career, and a lot of it was more like office work, and which is something I was not used to because I was heavy into the retail aspect. So I was like fully focused in on my work, and I found myself kind of being mentally drained coming home from work. And but when I got home and spent time with my family, I got my 3 kids running around, and I'm doing my all to be that perfect dad. And I just found myself, just kind of taking a little bit of a slower step. And I was like, I don't want to take that slower step. And so Magic Mind really has come in clutch because of this bundle, like the sleep and performance shots. Like it's a 24-hour mental wealth is what it's doing. It's contributing my mental wealth. And
Mm.
the thing about mental wealth is it's allowing you to store up the mental capacity to go throughout the entire day. It's just when you're at work and you're trying to get through the day, you just pop one of those mental performance shots, and I'm telling you, they taste delicious and they look good. You go ahead and you pop one of those in, and you're able to make it through the day. You're able to um, make it all the way until you get home, and still have enough energy, enough focus to be present in the family life. And with this new sleep shot that they have now, not only do you take this before bed, it go ahead and it sets your mind right to help you sleep better and wake up more refreshed. Like that's the craziest thing. Like I started taking this and this sleep shot, and after three days, you could really feel a difference. You really feel yourself going to sleep, and you're waking up refreshed. Like, which is the craziest thing. Like I was notorious for waking up groggy and just sluggish, but a lot of this has to do with the 5 pillars of mental wealth, and that is sleep, diet, exercise, stress management, and exogenous compounds. It's just those are so key to the complete mental wealth.
Amen to that, bro. And I just can say, I can affirm you are a good dad, and we're all proud of you. And I'm
Thanks.
glad that Magic Mind's been a big help in you being a more present dad. I'll say this about Magic Mind, man. And here's the thing too. Mental wealth. I love that. And the truth is, look, it's January, right? Everybody's got New Year's resolutions. People are trying to get healthy. People are, man. The gym is packed, y'all. The gym is packed, right?
Yep.
And the truth is, I've been doing my thing. I've been taking some Magic Mind, in the morning, and help me get my workout in. And the truth is, at night, I sleep is a big part of this, man. Like I might have all these great plans to get to the gym, to go walk the dogs, and to be active and to be fit. But the truth is, man, I need to have some good sleep as well. So these sleep shots have been so good for helping me get better sleep and helping me to really get ready for the next day. And then when that next day comes, guess what? I love the whole 24-hour strategy for mental performance, man, because the next day I hit that Magic Mind in the morning like normal, and it's been great. So I want to challenge everyone. If you're listening to this right now, let January be let it be the month that sets up your year. You feel me? We're doing the January mental wealth, challenge. I'm still getting used to the W in there. You know what I'm saying? I'm so used to saying mental health, but maybe it's mental wealth as well.
Time to invest, baby.
That's
Invest.
it. There's no better time to start than now. Make 2025 the year that you build your mental resilience. So here's what you need to do. Okay. We want to challenge everybody. Get your 24 hours pack, focus, and sleep shots. We bundled them together on Magic Mind for the first time ever. Okay. And if you go to this link, you're going to get 45% off. So here's the link: magicmind.com/RoyalPodJan, JAN as in January. Magicmind.com/RoyalPodJan. Okay. Go to that link. use our promo code, and you're gonna get 45% off. January is the Mental Wealth Challenge month. Let's get after it, guys. Let's let 2025 be our best year. Okay, the Magic Mind is a great part in helping us with that. So Justin, and Amato, here's the thing, man. You know, Neil's in the bath. He should have taken some sleep shots with Magic Mind. He's trying to get some good rest. He's stressed. Look, if there's one person on this team that is stressed from being home or for being on the adventure, it's definitely Neel. You
Oh
know,
yeah, dude.
it
And I,
is definitely Neel.
I just thought about something like, what if his species requires just moisture and he just has to be in the bath? But but if that is the case, my question is, why the excessive bubbles? That's my case there. I don't know.
Hey, man, I think the bubbles are just for covering up.
Yeah, yeah. You got to cover that blue skin, man. But yeah, Neel. Okay. So I mentioned this episode had a lot of character arc, like just fulfillments, and I think the reason we saw Neel and KB take a back seat was because they had their times to shine in previous episodes, and so I think Wim and
And
Fern,
You said who had
Neel
time
and
to shine?
Neel and KB had time to shine in other episodes. That's why I
Yeah.
think they both took more of a back seat this episode, and that allowed kind of Wim and Fern to kind of uh get up to speed and like kind of fulfill their arc as far as quote unquote better leader, quote unquote hero, like what we all saw coming. But yeah, and you kind of really see Fern come into that when Jot has her up with the supervisor, where we last left off
Right.
talking about.
Well, the thing about the supervisor. So, what did you guys think? Man, we instantly, Amato, I love your thoughts on this. We get it up to the top of the elevator, and the room is dark. And you even see Jod. He like rubs his finger, and he's like picking up some dust. He even says, "Is this place abandoned?" Like, how did you guys? Experience seeing the supervisor?
It was definitely very odd seeing him. It was very odd seeing their setup. I'm with Justin in his idea that he was not. I was not exactly thrilled with the reveal of who the actual supervisor was. I did like the fact that they had laid breadcrumbs kind of throughout the season, as I'm thinking back on it, about like not necessarily who the supervisor was, but the fact of like their feelings about droids throughout the entire season. Like
Yeah.
multiple times they talk about how like they're like, especially Jod is anti-droid pretty much through the entire series. So I
Yep.
did like kind of like that and then it ends up being a droid that's running everything.
Makes sense.
I
Yeah.
was kind of hoping maybe even after we saw the supervisor that maybe it was like a Wizard of Oz situation, but it didn't quite fall that way.
I'll tell you, when Jod first walked out of that elevator and like it was the dark environment and the crazy dust and everything, it really had a Snoke vibe to it. I was like, are we about to get Snoke right here?
Oh, that would have been crazy.
Like, because it really, if you really think about it, like that
Yeah.
whole like setup kind of felt like it. I don't know. Even the music kind of felt like
that,
it too.
or like just an Empire vibe in general.
Yeah, which technically it's the pre to the Empire, I guess, technically.
Well,
yeah,
go ahead.
It's pre to the Empire. Well, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, because it's the Republic before it was taken over by Palpatine. It was just like that transition in between.
Yeah, so this is around Order 66. So
Yes.
let's talk about this real quick. So Jod's lying, and I appreciate the moment that the supervisor actually has where he's like, "So are you lying about being an emissary or a Jedi?" Like I actually liked the interaction, although it was a little disappointing that it wasn't a human.
Yeah.
I did appreciate like the supervisor's banter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, it had definitely more banter than a droid usually has, as far as
Right.
like
Yeah,
especially that type of droid. Obviously, C-3PO is different, but like that type of droid where it's just like a swiveling head, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
it was, and it's also kind of interesting because it kind of feeds into the character of Jod a little bit, in the sense of like maybe the reason why he doesn't like droids is the fact that he can't use his charisma to like affect them. Like they
That's a great
see
point.
through what
That is a really good point.
he's saying to the truth. So he doesn't like that because he can't use his natural ability.
Yeah, his art of manipulation and his art of impressing himself onto another individual, like he did with the parents right away. Like even they were like, "Oh, you've saved our children. We're so grateful." And he had that like, "Ah, yes, of course, it's my noble deed, of
And
course."
he's like, and they're in big trouble.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. And then he talks kind of like down to the kids, but
Yeah, exactly.
like the parents should know, like, oh yeah, this is a terrible thing, but if it wasn't for me, it would be even worse of a thing, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which that wouldn't play against the supervisor. So yeah, that's a great point. You made Shimado.
And I guess the supervisor, they had to make it convenient. He sticks that lightsaber into the eye and
Yeah,
kills the supervisor, which is kind of sad because to some extent, this episode more than any, we're thinking the supervisor's some evil dude. But if you're thinking of like from the perspective of all these kids' parents, supervisor is a hero. Supervisor is
Yeah.
protecting them from the dark, dangerous, universe, the
yeah,
galaxy,
mm-hmm.
right? Supervisor like knows Farah, knows her daughter, like knows everyone. Seems
Mm-hmm.
to actually have a care for these people. Also, is
Yeah.
smart enough to pick up on Jod being a scoundrel, and then guess what? Killed. So to some extent, I kind of felt actually kind of sad for the supervisor. I'm not gonna lie.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, because it is like, for the most part, I think in that situation, you're kind of expecting AI to turn on you. But essentially, that whole time they were running that planet, the drone, the droid, and all the other droids really didn't do anything sinister. Everything they were doing was pretty much like above board. The only thing that they were really that was ever really was them trying to keep them on the planet, but like essentially that was just to keep them safe. Really,
Yeah,
there was
yeah,
Yeah.
never really any, even to the fact where they never progressed about beyond the point of using stun weapons.
right.
Mm,
Yeah, that's a good
that's
point.
true.
You mentioned like keeping them safe and everything, and we see like the fallout of that when they let ships through the barrier, and it's like a full-on invasion. Pirates are just flying everywhere, blowing stuff up which is crazy because there's families and stuff down there, and they're just like shooting into the streets, and you see the scenes of like the cul-de-sac blowing up. Like that's just, I'm like, dude, man, there's kids down there, and these guys are ruthless, and
Pow pow.
so yeah, you gotta man, you gotta take action, in which the kids they banded together. I I like the format in which they did this, where they all were kind of like together, minus Fern, and each of them were given a job. Like as they fell off, like Neel dropped off his bike first, and he's like, "I'm gonna go make a distraction with the cannon," and like he ran off and did his thing. And then KB or no, Wim dropped off next, and he was just like he was like, "I'm gonna go and get Fern or whatever." And then KB was like, "I'll get the ship. I'll make it to the ship. We can get a message out." Like,
Well, yeah, actually, it was Wim and his dad had to get the power on.
oh,
Remember,
that's right. That's
'cause
right.
they
That's
got
right.
to the ship. But
Yes.
to your point, it was good structure. I feel like I agree.
Yeah.
Where yeah, I actually liked seeing Wim and his dad. Dude, Wim actually, I know he's been annoying most of this show.
Yeah.
But when he's lying about like the crystal of the elders, I don't even know what he said.
Oh yeah.
But that was actually
Yeah.
pretty good. I liked that moment. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I
him and
feel
his
like in that
dad.
moment it was almost like purposeful.
Yes,
Yes, it was.
yes, I
Um,
agree.
but what do you guys think about the showdown between Wim, Fern's mom, and versus Jod? Like, what was your guys' take on that?
Yeah. Okay. So this is my big thing. Can we be real for a minute?
Yes.
I really want y'all's honest opinions because last week we had some discussion about, is Jod evil? Is he an anti-hero? Is he going to be redeemed? And it still feels like to me that I have no freaking clue. because I feel like he could have massacred everybody in there. And he even literally said at one point, he's like, I don't want to hurt anybody. But I couldn't tell if that's just him playing the part or he's being genuine. So I'd love y'all's thoughts on just all of these moments with, with Jod, and he's trying to fend off these 4 people and not kill them. Clearly, he's trying to not kill them because he could have taken Wendell's head right off. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
This was kind of a confused. I'm not going to say it ruined the episode for me, but it just felt a little confusing. Like I couldn't tell what Jod was trying to do or what he wanted. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'm going to explain it sort of like I kind of feel like it's almost like if you've ever watched the movie Wreck-It Ralph and they're in the therapy session for the bad guys, I almost feel like that's like the famous line from that is, "We're bad guys, but we're not bad guys." I feel like that kind of like defines Jod in a lot of ways. Like he is gonna do what it takes to get to what he needs, but I don't think he's necessarily sinister or he enjoys hurting people or anything along those lines. So I think he was the bad guy of this show, but I do think there's a huge lane that they left for his redemption. Like, could he end up being one of a student of Luke's at some point? Because they kind of set up to where like he was taken in by a Jedi, but she was killed, and then he kind of had to defend him for himself in the universe. And essentially, the age requirements I think are kind of like thrown out the window at this point for Jedi because they're just kind of like,
we need help.
You're Force sensitive. Let's get you in. Like that kind of thing. So I think there's a possibility that that could be it.
Last week I think I was the only one who was like this. He's full villain, like that's what he is. But you bringing up the Wreck-It Ralph scene, you make a great point because I feel like even Andor series, right? Andor is the villain to some people's point of view. Like Andor is the villain, right?
Yeah.
But in all actuality, like he's a good guy doing a good thing, and that the same goes for a good cause, but it just depends. But anyway, Jod, I feel like, yes, he is a decent human being as far as like, I think he still has a moral code compass, and I think it has to do with his start of his Jedi training. But at the end of the day, like he's doing bad things, and he's not willing to go that full cross that line of like a massacre, but there are instances where he is killing because when he unleashes the pirate army, he knows what they're doing. So he's not 100% an angel, right? So
and
he's
Brutus.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. And we saw Brutus. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But there's also the part like I genuinely, I'm not going to say he was about to cry, but when KB's ship went down, which by the way, we all knew she wasn't dead because
no explosion, no anything. Like it was,
Doesn't matter how loud Fern screams, she ain't dead. But nonetheless, I did sense it was genuine. He said it didn't have to be this way.
Yeah.
Like I really think in that moment, they all think Fern's dead. Or sorry, KB's dead, and I think he's actually really sad. I think he actually does. I really believe he cares for these kids. I really do. He could have killed them so many times, or their parents. He never did.
Or
you know what he loves more than these kids?
Money.
Yeah.
Or is it poor casting? Or is it poor casting on Disney's self by casting Jude Law, who we see as the villain, or he's supposed to be the villain, but we can't help but see him as a lovable character because of who he is. You get lost in those blue eyes of his, and like that's it. Like, I mean, is that the case? Well, like, are we supposed to see him menacing?
He was a villain in Captain Marvel, right?
And, but did you believe it? Like, he started
It didn't surprise me. No, it didn't surprise me at all.
But the first half, he was a likable character, like for the most part.
Yeah, they were clearly building up to something.
Correct. Yes.
But here's my thing. So he could have killed. Dude, he could have killed Wendell. He could have snapped Wendell's fingers. That was crazy. and he was
Oh,
using
yeah.
the Force.
Oh, yeah.
I actually like covered my screen. I was like, oh no, I don't need to see this. But even at the end, okay, I'm skipping forward a little bit, but even at the end, he's lost. He is still holding a blaster, and Wim is holding a lightsaber, doesn't know how to use it.
Right.
He can still kill everyone in that room, and he throws his blaster down.
Yeah.
I think what I'm trying to say, I'm not as well as Amato said it, but I agree with Amato. I think they're creating. I don't understand the purpose of. Here's my thing. I don't understand the purpose of this show and its ending, especially in regards to Jod, if there's not more of a redemption arc coming.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good point.
What's the point? What's the point?
Well, I think,
There's no resolution.
Honestly, after this finale in general, a question was asked in like the friend circle outside of you guys, obviously, but like, what was the point of this show in the Star Wars universe? What was the grand plan? What did this like contribute to the Star Wars universe, or in general? Like, I mean, Andor, we know what the purpose of Andor is. I mean, because he's fully responsible for getting the Death Star plans. Like that makes sense. Acolyte even attempted to show us what it's like to start a quote unquote Padawan for the dark side. Like which is needed, right? I mean, Boba Fett, Mandalorian, they kind of just continue the story of what's happening after Return of the Jedi. But like, if you really think about it, what is the point of this show besides like expanding the universe and just being a nice little pocket story tucked away in the corner of the galaxy?
I agree. That's my biggest problem with the ending, where it just felt like there was nothing.
Yeah.
Like the only glimmer is they're leaving. So, dude, here's my confusion. Again, I'm gonna try to get a question out here. So, Farah and Fern, and then Wendell and Wim, they get in the elevator, and I'm aware, like, okay, we haven't seen what happened with Jod. The last thing we saw, he threw his blaster down, and then you just see Wim scream his name, like Jod, and then they show up, and you see a shot of Jod, and he like looks over to them with like not a smirk, not a grin, not a frown, but just like a glance, and then that's it. And I'm like, okay, so this guy that just pretty much ruined your planet, ruined its safety.
Yeah.
You're just going to leave him in the room, not tied up. To some extent, he could have ran and he didn't. Like, there's just so much confusion for me on this ending. And I'm not saying it's bad. Maybe there's a show that comes out or a movie and he's a part of it in the future and everything's, just fine. But I'm like, it just felt disjointed a little bit. That's really what I'm trying to get at. Am I crazy? Amato, am I crazy?
I think you're correct in the sense of like it didn't feel like Jod's storyline didn't feel like it had any like conclusion essentially. Now what I would like to potentially see is maybe he gets taken in by the New Republic and he almost gets like in a work release program of a sort of either going and being maybe he goes and be and is under the guidance of Luke, like I said, when he's one of the first students with Luke. Or maybe he goes under Ahsoka, eventually. Of course, Ahsoka would be more difficult because she's, potentially off planet, like in a different like dimension, like or wherever that fits in. But
right,
I could see something like that working with like, okay, you're kind of like putting him up to like you have to make a change, And I think they've put him in a position where they've shown that he can be a bad dude, but not like the worst of people. Yeah. And I think they're kind of like, but I think if push comes to shove, he'll be a good dude. I think in a way.
Yeah.
Like I think if he's forced to, he'll choose. He's all about the path of survival. Is what it comes down to. So if he's pushed into the realm of being a good dude, he'd be, that.
Okay. Yeah, well said, man. Well said. I would love a little bit more of a nice bow of an ending, like that kind of gave us like some satisfaction in the story that we committed to
Yeah.
for these last 7 weeks. And so I think if this does not get a season 2 and if the show were to end right now, I think I would. I mean, it's an enjoyable show, but it would definitely be in like the bottom tier of Star Wars shows because of one. I mean, I hate it because I know MCU spoiled us, but like connectivity, and two would be that it was just kind of there. Like it doesn't. Like, you can watch everything Star Wars and never see that again, and you won't miss anything. Like it doesn't. It didn't
Right.
contribute
That's
any
yes,
substance.
exactly.
Yeah, and so like yeah, I don't know. I wanted more, but I really do hold out hope for a season 2 to kind of add on that more because like do they start up trade again because the barriers down? Do they get reacclimated into the new world with the new republic? Like do the X-wings start a base on the planet to help protect them as like real citizens
Well,
of the
the answer to
galaxy?
that is yes, because like they have no military.
Yeah,
Like they need something, dude.
yeah,
They need something. They have no protection now, right?
Yeah.
So
And they
I
have
think
all like essentially an infinite amount of money. Essentially they could essentially like if you really think about it, they could probably almost bankrupt the galactic economy
totally.
because of the fact that they would devalue the value of a credit so
Oh
much
yeah.
by if that money got out into the world. So it's almost like if you think about it, it would be more advantageous for the New Republic to kind of just shut off that world and not let them interact with the
Yeah.
rest of the galaxy.
Yeah.
Honestly, like from like an economic standpoint, because that money is so dangerous to the um like the economic value of a credit.
So speaking of money, here's a question. Before we wrap up, we haven't talked about this. When before Jod kills the supervisor mentions an interesting line. I'm not going to hit it verbatim. He says, "I was kind of wondering if we would ever see another emissary show up."
mm,
Right?
yeah,
And which explains why they have such a crazy amount of credits. Like
yeah. They
when
just kept going. They just kept going until someone
over a
came.
thousand vaults, which have potentially trillions of credits in them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good point.
so that's why I'm really disappointed in we didn't get clarity on that. There, like, I just wish after Jod is, I guess, free and the kids save KV. Like, I just wish there was maybe a moment where an X-wing captain lands and comes and talks to Farah, Fern's mom, and's like, "Oh, hey, what's going on here?" And she's like, "Well, we've been making credits for the Republic." And he's like, "Well, there's a new Republic now." Like I don't know. I just wish
Yeah.
I needed something a little more.
Kind of
Like,
to let us know where Atten stands in the world today, the galaxy today. Like,
yeah, they're a red
Yeah.
state or a blue state. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we?
yeah. Oh, geez.
No, seriously. Like, to some extent, I'm joking, but like, yes. Like, what is their way forward? How do they view what's next?
And you know what? That might be a question that never gets answered, to be honest with you.
That's
Like,
what I'm saying.
that's
That's
what
what
I'm
I
worried
feel like.
about. I'm worried about it. And will it happen? Probably. I would buy that.
Yeah, it feels more likely that it would. Yeah.
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 I want to say something before we start, like, actually getting out of here. We went this whole entire thing and we didn't even bring up the fact that KB brought 33 back. And
Yo.
She just yeah.
she's holding his
head at one
skull.
point.
Yeah.
That was actually
amazing.
that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And I actually appreciate it because we were like, okay, if anyone's gonna save 33, it's KB.
And there was. Yeah.
But they didn't show it in the way that they revealed it. Is her whole stabilizing his head, like,
so he
to
could fly the
me-
ship. Yeah.
To me, that was actually pretty cool. And when it crash lands, he's like, definitely like my one of my best landings. I was
Yes.
like, dude,
Oh, yeah.
33 is you
Which
could
is
add him to the
phenomenal.
list you can add him to the list of amazing droids, right?
Yes, agreed. Yep.
Like
Yes.
he's in there. So that's a good point, Justin. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, any other closing thoughts? Anything we might have missed? Might be minor, but something else that either you loved, you hated, you want to talk about?
I think I'm good, man. I think
I wish
we
Neil's
covered
family.
it.
Yeah, I
Neil's
wish
family.
Neil's mom got a little more time. His family, like just something. I wish she had been a part of like the rescue mission as well, because she was a big enough like, or even like KB's family, because like they were a part of like the rescue, or they were part of like the whole situation, and then they kind of get pushed to the side for the actual like the big mission at the end. But that, I mean,
Yeah.
that's just a little thing. Like, but yeah,
I mean, what we saw of her was her on the lawn and watching the pirates come down, and then like narrowly escaping, getting
Yeah.
destroyed. Which, I mean, definitely traumatizing if she would have died there, especially holding those three little babies.
oh yeah,
Bruh.
But then, as they're running back to the house, they're looking at the window, and Neil's in the bath. Like, what are you doing in there, Neil? Like,
Dude,
like I
Neil, man.
told you, the kid has to stop taking baths. Nothing good happens on that planet when he takes a bath.
oh, Neil,
I mean, he's
we love
committed to
you.
his hygiene.
He's a good old boy.
You gotta admire it. Gotta admire it. Okay, well, to wrap it up, mostly positive. I did enjoy the finale in isolation. I enjoyed the structure of it. I'm just a little let down in its connectivity to a greater universe. I'm really let down with like I don't know the significance of like what are the X-wing pilots thinking when they show up? Like everybody's heard of that Atom, but it's like
Yeah.
it's a fairy tale. It's like Amato, you said it earlier in the season, but it's like if like today Navy SEALs found out that Atlantis existed, I would want to
Yeah.
see the Navy SEALs reaction to that. Like I just wanted a little bit more.
Or like El Dorado, like legit, like that would be like the literal city of gold.
Yes, literally. Like I just wanted a little more from that angle. But clearly in my mind, like they intentionally left things with a massive question mark with Jod.
Mm-hmm.
Like he didn't from our perspective, like we might see this in the second season or in a future project, but he didn't just run or flee. Looks like he gave up.
Yeah, surrendered.
And then surrendered, but we don't know. Like, is somebody going to find him up there? Is anybody going to think to look up there? Is all these pirates are potentially dead? Like, there's all these pirates that might have just be wandering around.
We didn't even see Space Circle officially die, right? Like he was
like
getting
that.
shot at, but
The frigate
Yeah.
crashes, but like
mhm.
there's just a lot of loose ends. So I'm hopeful for season 2 just for that. But I don't know if like how easy is it to like get kids to do a season 2? I don't know how that works. You know what I'm saying? So
we'll see. I don't know.
Okay. Well, boys, this has been a lot of fun. Again, not the worst. Definitely not the worst Star Wars project out there. Certainly better than some Marvel shows. So overall, thankful to do it along with you guys. I want to just remind the viewers, the listeners, everybody who's tuned in to return to the podcast. We're going to have some exciting things in the coming months. We're going to be doing a review of all of the episodes of the show Severance on Apple TV Plus here soon. We're going to be having Captain America Brave New World is right around the corner. We're going to have a review for that. So we want to remind you to please stay locked in with the podcast. So please subscribe wherever you are listening. Follow us on social media. Also, share this podcast with your friends. And if you want to leave a review, that really helps us. And then lastly, one more shout out to our friends at Magic Mind. We mentioned it earlier, but you can go to our link, magicmind.com/RoyalPodJan, as in January. Use our code RoyalPodJan, and you will get 45% off their bundle, which is the focus shots and the sleep shots. A great deal. You don't want to pass it up. So check that out, magicmind.com/RoyalPodJan. With all that in mind, for my good friends Sandy and Shamato, this is T-Roll signing off and thanking you for joining us for another episode of the Royal Geek Podcast. We will see you next time, you peasants.